What's up, everybody? Sorry I've been MIA. I've been pretty busy lately, and if I have to choose between boating and making videos, I'm definitely boating. But here we are. We're back. We've got a video here that covers Offutt at two different levels. Offutt is an island that's just downstream of Anglers, a common put-in here on the Potomac. If you hug the left bank, you'll notice a big island. So you go left of the island, and just about halfway down between the island and the Maryland side of the shore, there's a standing wave that comes in around 4.5 feet and is good up into the low fives. For playboats, mostly, it's a really nice wave just to surf and hang out, test your playboating skills, attain up in loops. There's a lot to do around. But we all know that Anglers is pretty crowded these days. It's a popular place for hikers and all kinds of different people to park their car. So there is an alternate parking lot here, but it's a little bit of a secret. So I'm going to let you reverse engineer it from the footage rather than blowing up the spot by telling you exactly where it is. But basically, you're going to be able to cross MacArthur here and walk past a campground. I think it's called Marsden. And eventually you get to the river where you can put in and attain up or walk all the way up and around to basically next to the wave and put in there, just ferry across into that big river right eddy and surf all day. So we're going to get basically two different levels, show you how it changes. In both cases, you're going to want to bring a playboat, but this will just give you a sense of what the wave is like, how to get there, put in takeout, and all of that good stuff. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope to see you on the river.
I think that attainment.
So this is Keith and I. We are walking up. Now we've hit the riverbank. So we're going to hang a right and walk up along the shore until we can see a good eddy to put into. I'm in a playboat, so I'm not going super fast or attaining really aggressively. So I'm wanting to walk up reasonably close to the wave. Another thing is that in my dry suit and my playboat, I don't have a lot of room. And so one thing I'm planning on working on during this session is just being really aggressive about my torso rotation and how I'm moving, because I find it so much harder to do those kinds of big moves with my torso, but also to comfortably do those little adjustments, just how tight I am in my dry suit. I could stand to shed a few pounds as well. But one thing that's also really important to me is doing a practice roll before getting into these kinds of situations where I'm already feeling a little bit constricted. It's just a good reminder that you can roll, a good way to get used to the water temperature. Dry suit means cold water. And so you'll see Keith and I do that here in a second as well. Okay, we're putting in on this river left eddy that's nice and big, and we're going to paddle upstream to the wave. It's only about 100 yards or so.
Woo!
Okay, practice roll's done, nice and wet, so it's time to paddle up. I fast forward up through this stuff. Basically, we're just hugging the bank and paddling up. There's nothing really to contend with aside from being aware that when the river's this high, you'll have some strainers. You got to watch out for wood, that kind of thing. But eventually, what you'll come up to is this constriction in the river with some obstacles ahead. So you start to see some waves, and that's what you know. You're almost at the wave, and all you have to do, remember, we're upstream, so we're technically on river left. And we're going to ferry across to river right, where there's a big eddy with direct service up to the actual wave hole. So we put in pretty low and paddle up. You can also paddle down from Anglers and catch the wave that way, but of course then you've got to figure out how to get back up. can always hop on the trail and walk it. Also, if you want to walk through the campground like I did here, you don't have to put in and paddle up. You can actually follow the trail all the way up to the wave. It happens to move away from the river and then back, so you've got a little extra walking to do, but if for whatever reason you don't feel like paddling your playboat up, that is definitely an option. All right, really quick, just to give you a view of what it's like to walk all the way up to the wave. Like I said, the trail is going to move away from the river, loop around, you'll cross this little tiny stream, and then you'll be back at the river up on this rocky escarpment here. What I did is I actually brought a cooler out and hung out here for like 5 hours. You know, I had hummus, I had chips, I had all kinds of stuff. So I'd surf a bunch, take a break, watch people, surf a bunch, and it's a nice little trail up there. So if you want to set up a surf camp and chill, I do recommend it. So from this put in, you can see that we're already way closer to the wave. There's hardly any paddling that needs doing. Also, that was a nice little sandy beach area. So that's a good put in also. Puts you more or less right into the action. And without further ado, let's start surfing this wave and stop talking about how to get to it. All right, so let's start at 4.8 feet. Basically, you can see that this wave is a nice little pocket. There is a depression in the river as the water flows down, creating the hole that you're going to surf in. And you can get right up to that eddy line and well above the hole because of the rocks, creating an eddy on river left, or rather surfer's left, river right. And so the eddy goes all the way up there, and you can more or less sit there and watch people get on the wave like we're watching Keith do right now. The main thing about getting on this wave is that if you start too low, there's just no way because the water's moving too fast. So give yourself plenty of opportunity to get over that eddy line, good strong paddle strokes, and maintain eye contact with the crest of the wave ahead of you. That is a really good way to make sure that you keep your boat angle in the right way that the wave will catch you. Again, at this level, playboats have a really easy time catching this wave. Smaller half slices maybe, but for the most part, I think people in half slices have a trickier time sitting on this wave and getting super long rides than playboats do. But don't let that deter you from bringing your half slice out here. There's a ton to do, and definitely saw some people getting good surfs. So this wave is easy to surf at any level, but at 4.65, any level when it's in. But at 4.65, it's a deeper trough, and that basically means that it's easier to get on and stay on, because since you're sitting lower compared to the rest of the river, it's harder for the wave to kick you off on surfer's right or river left like it wants to. So one of the things about when a wave is steeper like that, i.e. the trough is sitting further below the normal level of the river, makes it less forgiving for longer boats but better for playboats in terms of stickiness. So like at this level, it's so easy. You barely need your paddle. You can chuck your paddle back into the eddy and just lean back in a playboat, and you'll just sit there for days. It still, like I said, wants to wash you off on the right-hand side. So be aware if you're just sitting there chilling, surfing, and you're moving that way, if you don't react in time and get your right knee up to carve left, you will find yourself behind the foam pile. Luckily, there's 2 other waves back there, maybe even 3, that are good to surf. So if you get kicked off, start paddling like hell, and there's a good chance you're going to catch one of those. Wes is an awesome boater, and it's always so much fun to see him surf because he's really good at it. So Wes hops onto this wave, and I think he starts getting worried he's going to start to have to pay rent on it, which is why eventually he hops off. But way to surf, Wes. This was awesome to watch, and we can't wait to see you start throwing Space Godzillas.
Ended it by choice.
Notice that his ride is not over. He catches one of the many secondary and tertiary waves behind this one. The other thing about a steeper wave is that if you enter really high, there's a chance that you slice your bow into the wave, which is almost always bad for your surfing. It could mean it starts to ender you. If you don't flick your edge back and shed that water, then it could flip you. So just be aware, the steeper the wave, the more attention you need to pay on the entry move, but it is all worth it because you will stay on that wave for longer. The waves below the main Offutt wave are skinnier, faster, in some cases steeper and trashier, so you have to fight a little more to stay on them. Sometimes you can get to that top wave and surf it like above the main Offutt wave, but one thing I was doing is playing around with trying to get out way above the wave and then manage my boat angles so that I sort of land backwards into a surf. Because every time I try and catch waves like downstream, I always miss them, or I'm too far on the left or right, or I'm not paddling upstream fast enough to slow my speed and get into a surf. So it was an interesting way to practice some of those components. You'll see everybody doing this kind of carving. Keith is playing with it a lot. Wes uses it. Pretty much anybody in a playboat sitting on a wave can get some advantage by lifting their left knee if they want to turn surfers right, or lifting their right knee if they want to turn surfers left. Carving back and forth gives you some momentum that you can control. It makes your position on the wave predictable. It puts you in situations where you can start to initiate tricks by dropping your edges further or using your paddle. And so it also gives you the opportunity to initiate a move to carve away from the washy part of the wave that wants to kick you off. In this case, it's on the right of the wave. So that's what we're doing when we carve back and forth. It's a really good thing to get used to. And it gives you a good sense of the edges on your boat, transferable knowledge for all kinds of kayaking. So if you have a playboat and you haven't started carving back and forth, start your carving journey. It's good practice. You know, one of the reasons I love kayaking is it unlocks so many different sensations. Like when you get your playboat, first, just the act of controlling it feels like an achievement. Then you sit on a wave and you feel all the friction drop away and it feels like you're going 100 miles an hour, and that alone is worth the price of admission. And then you feel in control on a wave and you're carving back and forth, and that feels like an achievement. And then you show up to surf one day and somebody in a playboat is throwing crazy tricks and loops and ends, and you go, there's so much more that this little piece of plastic can draw out of me. There's so much more experience, focus, attention, achievement to be had. It's a never-ending journey, y'all. And I think that's one of the reasons it's so much fun. And then sometimes you yell, whoa, before flipping over. That's okay. That's why we learned how to roll. Note that this is happening at 4.65, so it's back on that steeper wave. And the problem here is I let water build up on my bow, which flipped me over.
How often do you get a vocal scream?
I hope you're starting to be able to tell visually what's 4.6-ish, what's 4.8-ish. At 4.6, the wave is steeper and has a taller foam pile, which means that it's a steeper wave. You could lose your bow, but also that you'll stay on longer, easier for playboats, harder for longer boats. Yeah, the steep wave. Okay, maybe it's not easier to surf because you can lose your bow, but it's easier to stay on longer. Anyway, so what happened there is I was just trying to use my body to force my edges back into the right position. Notice when I was pogoing up in the air in that kind of stern squirt, if I had been able to turn my edges around and lean forward, I wouldn't have flipped over. But I was so excited to keep my bow in the air that I didn't even think of that. Anyway, this is like, these little accidents give you the feeling of what it might be like to initiate one of those tricks where your body needs to be to land it. So anyway, like, don't feel bummed out when that stuff happens to you. Try to ride it. Try and make it something intentional, even if it's by accident to start with.